So good morning to those of you that are waiting for the webinar series. I'm just going to leave it another 30 seconds or so. We've got a couple of people just coming into the lobby, so we'll admit them and then we'll make a start. So thank you for your patience for a little bit longer. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll get going. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar in this series of exploring local government reorganisation. My name is Andrew Bullock, and I'm the sales director here at Trustmarque Ultima, responsible for what we call regional government. So for us, that's local authorities, higher education, and some housing associations. And I am joined today by Robin Denton, who's Director of Local Public Services at Microsoft. And between us, we're going to host this first session for you. As I said, this is the first of 3 webinars, and I'll give you a little reminder about the topics that we're going to be covering on the other sessions a little bit later this morning. But today we're essentially going to be looking at what we're calling the digital playbook and what day one ready actually means, and what our view is on how councils should start thinking about preparing for that. And obviously, you know, you might be thinking, well, what gives us the right to hold a webinar? We're not a local authority, so what gives us the right to have a view on it? Well, in order to build our portfolio of services to support local government reorganisation, and even to have an opinion, Trustmarque Ultima has invested quite a lot of time discussing the challenges of LGR with a number of local authorities. That's some of the ones that are on the screen here now, the logos that you can see at the bottom. And we've reviewed white papers and looked at the lessons learned, as well as looking at publicly available information that's published by bodies like the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. So look, hopefully what you hear today will definitely resonate with what you're seeing yourselves. So look, let's just set the scene a little bit. In reality, local government reorganisation is a bit of a once in a generation opportunity to reset. Now, mergers obviously mean multiple estates, multiple suppliers, lots of different identity models and different ways of working. But at the end of the day, the thing that's non-negotiable is residents and frontline teams still need services to work throughout that process, particularly right at the beginning on day one. So this isn't really just about a restructure. It's an opportunity to simplify everything that is done and to modernise. But the key to this is getting a sequence of change correct. And actually, it's in the transition where lots of programs will stumble or fail. And of course, if they fail, they will fail quickly. Failure isn't really about just a technical inconvenience. It's actually service failure. And what does service failure look like if you're an authority? Residents can't pay. They can't report anything. They can't book anything. They can't track anything. Your staff will lose access and visibility. Queues and escalations will spike. And digital failure becomes a very reputational failure very quickly. In fact, probably in a matter of hours. But there is a good way and a proven way of avoiding this. And it's not about just what's the risk. There is an opportunity to provide a really good service and come out at the other end of this in a much better position. Residents will be able to access services without confusion. All your staff will be able to work as one seamless organisation. And if you follow a nice and neat programme, there'll be a clear sequence of going from stability to transformation. We do support a number of councils already on this journey, going from day one readiness through convergence planning and then transformation. And at the end of the day, Trustmarque Ultima's position is that we look at a practical risk managed delivery and not disruption. So look, if you're about to enter that journey, let's start on a day one readiness conversation at the very least. And that's really where the risk to all of this is won or lost. But I would say that, wouldn't I? So don't just take our word for it. I'm sure that many of you are already aware Yorkshire have been through this reorganisation, and many of you will be already familiar with Madeline Hoskin's work. It's published in many places, including as you can see here at the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. And for me, this really brings it home. I mean, I'll leave you to read it yourself, but the bit that resonates for me is the last sentence. Residents don't really care about shiny change. They just want their bins collected and their services to work. So look, I've referenced a couple of times this need for change and the sequence of events that needs to take place. So let's just get on and show you what that is. And it's shown here in what we're calling the digital playbook. It's deliberately simple, and it's simple so that it's repeatable. And we'll start with stabilization or day one readiness. This is around identity, access, collaboration, and the core systems. And really, to keep it really simple, the emphasis is on minimum viable capability. You're just trying to protect continuity. You're not trying to modernize everything early. And identity, I'm talking about technical identity here, is treated as the anchor here, enabling you to secure your access across multiple environments, alongside ensuring you've got reliable email, your collaboration tools all still work, and you've got data availability. Now, the critical principle here in this phase is to avoid making irreversible technology decisions, because anything that's premature around trying to modernize introduces a lot of risk and could destabilize those essential resident services. So success is really easy to measure in phase one, the day one readiness. Quite simply, can the staff still work as normal? Do all the services still remain live? And have the citizens experienced no disruption? And it's only when all that's in place that you can even think about moving into convergence, the second stage. That's where we get to rationalize tenants, systems, contracts, and doing all of that planned migrations without destabilizing the basic services. So once operational stability has been achieved, this is about bringing together the multiple council systems, the different ways of working into a single coherent organisation. And the stuff in here in this phase would typically include aligning your collaboration models and making informed decisions about what should be standardized. This is really about focusing on reducing complexity, but again, without introducing any unnecessary risk. Then you get into the final stage of transformation. That's the redesign of services, automation, and maybe improving outcomes. And this represents the shift from stability to one of improvement and innovation. But you have to have the strong foundations in place first. Councils can then look to modernise platforms, redesign the services, and use digital and data more effectively to improve outcomes for residents and citizens. And we think that together, the three phases of stabilisation, so your day one readiness, your convergence, and your transformation, gives a clear and realistic pathway from reorganisation to a future ready council. So that's just a quick overview and a sort of a scene set. And with that, I think it's an excellent time to bring in Robin Denton from Microsoft. And I'll stop sharing. Robin, over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me just get my presentation up and I will kick off. Right, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Robin Denton. I am the director of what we call our local public services business here in Microsoft. Now, I've been at Microsoft for 22 years nearly. So when we talk about local government reorganisation, I've actually been in the local government team from when Wiltshire and the Bedfords went through local government reorganisation through to the most recent rounds of local government reorganisation. So I've seen a lot of different approaches to this, and I've seen a lot of variance in how people have undertaken it. And I'm also very cognizant of what Microsoft have and haven't been able to do in those individual moves, and what we need to start thinking about from more of a holistic approach across the entire sector, with so many of these changes going on across such a short period of time. So through this process, what I'm going to walk you through is the culmination, I think, of a lot of experience going through those different reorganization phases, looking at what has worked really well, looking at some of the areas that maybe we've seen some struggle, and looking, introspectively at what we weren't able to do through those that we could improve on as an organization to better support yourselves who are going through this at such a huge scale. We looked to circle around and come up with what we think are the core principles that would really help people to get to day one in a strong position. And we've also looked at what can we start doing to introduce different types of commercial flex that we haven't been able to before, that might enable people to start aligning on technology decisions, be able to start using things in the run up to vesting day, and indeed get to a consolidated position as soon as possible, either for a vesting day or as soon after as your program plans will allow you to deliver. So let me run through this. I'll try and make it fairly whistle stop. We will make this content available after this, so anyone who wants to pick up any of these points can do, and there is some extra supplemental material that we're able to share as well. But if I go through kind of the kind of core pieces that we're thinking about, so I've jumped on one too many there. Look, for me, we are looking at 5 particular areas of technology that we think we can help to support in terms of your all-up technology transformation program. There's obviously a lot of things that we're not going to necessarily be able to support with in terms of how you consolidate things like your social care systems, but certainly from an awful lot of the services that you're delivering on the Microsoft platform, there's a lot that we can start doing. So we have built out kind of 5 core pillars of technology that we believe we can help to lean into. First one is around what your employee experience is, and I think Andy touched on it quite nicely in that top there. We're building out a multi-phased approach in our thinking here. So, number one, what is the identity? There is an opportunity for you to create a new master identity that will play forwards into your new environment and connect back into your legacy environment. That means you can start creating those personas with the right credentials that can work across a couple of different operating modalities. And I think that will be cleaner than trying to set up multiple different ADFS environments that are going to ping backwards and forwards continually. Standing up what that new master identity is going to be is a big step in helping you to create that move forwards and actually start locking down the permissions that you need from day one. That will help with some of the security as well in terms of the new environment. We're starting to think about when someone has a new device, or in fact, probably not a new device, they're bringing the device from old world into new world, what are the steps that we need to go through? Are we going to look at creating a new image that would be for the new organization? How are we going to drop that down onto those different environments? What are we going to start thinking about from a network availability perspective? Are you going to go to zero trust? And if so, what are the security parameters we need to go and put in place so that people can move between different offices that may still have different network backbones, but actually we can get to zero trust that allow a lot more fluency between those different locales. We're starting to think about what does it mean. I got called out on this in the previous webinar, so let me pause there. When I say we're starting to think about, that's my terminology and vernacular. We've built out entire guides for all of this. But what we're actually building out now is, what's it look like from a Microsoft 365 environment? So what is the migration pathway from your current tenancies into a new tenancy? What are the decisions that need to be made along that journey? How do you go through making those decisions? I'll give you a cliff note. The single biggest debate you're going to end up having is, what is the new tenancy going to be called? Because you will have to come up with a new brand name for the new organization. And that is really commonly a tripping point that we see that holds things up. So what is going to be the politician sign-off? on that. But then how do we get to migrating data into that as quickly as possible so you can get to a day one environment where people can be working out that new environment? We're also cognizant that there's going to be a whole host of things that you need to connect back into. So identity is a part of that connecting back into, but I also think that there is a big role to play that a VDI type solution could land in here, and that might be creating full virtual desktops you want to connect back into. They're actually the access point to some of those legacy systems. It might be you want to be doing something different with application delivery or a different modality using something like Windows 365 to connect back into some of those legacy systems in a very controlled manner, which allow, again, you to move forwards with having a new working and operating environment for your organization. We're looking at what is the day one resident experience. Now, again, if I go into what that entails, we know you're going to have a plethora of different CRMs and different contact points, different line of business systems you're going to be managing based on what they do, how quickly they can come together, what is your pathway to moving those systems down to a consolidated single for the new organization. But there will be a long tail of long running we expect in all of that. Actually, for us, the question becomes, how do you hide all of that for the resident? How do you create the veneer that means regardless of whether someone's going to a website, whether someone is calling in, whether someone is using WhatsApp or another modality to start asking for services or asking questions of the new local authority, you can triage that in a very common experience. Regardless of where people are coming in from, you can access the same knowledge bases to answer the questions that you need to, and then you can start creating cases that can flow back into wherever they need to go across that complex web of systems. We're very much of the belief that, to Maddie's quote earlier, which I love, the residents will care about how they access those servers and make those requests and how actually those services come back out to them, not necessarily, how do I navigate through multiple different systems with multiple different front doors? So how do we start to consolidate that, give them that veneer of the one place to go and land and ask a request of whatever the new organization name is, and then flow that back through. We're very aware that there is going to be multiple different infrastructure environments in all of this. There will be different data centers with different rundown times. You'll have different cloud environments, and you'll be looking to navigate actually what's going to be the most cost-effective way of bringing all of that together, using either excess capacity in some of our existing on-prem footprints, or bursting out into cloud or expanding cloud environments where that is most appropriate. And the key thing for us in all of this is how we create the hybrid workflow that can allow you to effectively have a management pane, which will give you a single view across all of that. And actually, there is potential way up front now for you to start creating some of those hybrid landing zones. So you can start using technologies like Arc to connect back into multiple different domains and get a view of what those different estates look like. We also have got some capability we're bringing out on the Microsoft 365 front, which will allow you to look through multiple different tenants and start making sure permissions are aligned. You're able to start managing multiple tenants through a single pane of glass as well. That is actually some capability we already deliver out to our partner network, where we have outsourcing relationships and the like. So there's some really strong capability we can start landing now to help you get those views, get those management panes stood up, start getting yourselves ready for how you're going to migrate into a new environment for vesting day. We're working out what does this mean for data. So data, I think, is a really interesting conversation in all of this, because there's going to be multiple different things we're going to need to think about here. We're going to need to think about how is it on day one we're able to start creating those single dashboards that we need to be able to view the entire operating model. What are we doing with finance? How are our finance systems flowing together? Where are we with that? How are we doing against our KPIs, and where do we need to pull multiple different data sources from across different organizations together into that new pane of existence? Where have we got things like multiple different resident records that are going to live in multiple different line of business systems that we're going to need to serve up so that we can serve that resident consistently across all of those technology sets? As we start thinking about the coming together of those different environments, how we can put the right permissions in place that mean if we're splitting into two councils and we still have to access data that's in a shared environment, how is it we can make sure that council from, I don't know, west as an example and east can only see data around the residents that live in west or east and not go through and see data about everyone. So we need to start thinking about what is it that we can put in place to trim all of that and protect that data in the right way, so people only get access to what they should get access to. And that will play through in some of the further strategies you may have around what you want to enable with things like AI. The final one that we talk about up front is something that I'm very, very vehement about. You should be doing this now. How are we locking down the council now, ready for moving forwards? And that is really, really important, because when you move into a new vested environment, the single biggest threat vector you will have is the lowest common denominator on security protocols across that entire environment. If someone is carrying a breach, if someone is carrying legacy, and you don't address that now, that footprint, that risk plane is going to be there as you move into your new environment. So starting to think about how we're starting to leverage common security protocol across all of us, even before we move into that vested environment, is really important. How can we stand up a SOC that can connect in on a regional basis to all of your footprints is going to be really, really important. And how do we go about enabling that? So there's 5 core pillars that we're talking about there. Now, there are other considerations, right? There are other bits that are going to fall into this at different stages, dependent upon how quick you want to go at this, how much modernization you want to try and push in at the same time versus what you want to do to get to a day one vested state. So the other areas that we are absolutely working up guidance on is how can we start doing app modernization and how can we do app rationalization? I think there is a lot out there that is low-hanging fruit for you to be able to move forwards and modernize quite quickly. And actually, with some of the capabilities coming through now with things like GitHub, Copilot, and with some of the Power Platform capabilities, you can modernize certain applications quite quickly, especially when they're more databasey interaction type applications. There's a lot there that we can do to modernize very, very quickly, and there's an opportunity to target some of those legacy applications that aren't quite as complex as your big social care systems and the like. What is it you might want to do with AI? I don't believe in saying AI is the panacea to everything and you need to be thinking about an AI state from day one, because this is going to be complex. But there are going to be areas where I anticipate people will want to start using AI technologies, where you might want to start using either AI-infused security products, or you might want to start looking at Copilot, or you might want to put AI in the contact center from day one. And actually, as we go through this conversation, starting to flesh out where are those moments for you to apply AI tool sets into your working environment, your flow of your day, your front door, and where aren't they correct at the moment, is a conversation that we need to work through, and that will vary independently. As we look into the medium and long term, what are you looking to do with ERP? We've seen a number of councils, whether that's Somerset, BCP, etc., who, as they've gone through this, have started deciding, right, we're going to move into a new ERP platform. Some people decide to consolidate on what is the biggest ERP platform. So again, as you're thinking about that, what are the options that you've got there? What is it that we could bring to that? Where might you want to surround different ERP systems you're already using with capability that might enrich them? And then the final bit that, again, is a conversation for all of this flow is, what is the skills of the workforce currently? What are the skill footprint that you're going to need moving forwards into your new environment? Where are there technologies that people are going to have to start using that are different to what they're using today? How to create that skilling pathway and make sure people are ready for moving into that new environment. Now, there's quite a lot that we are doing to help facilitate some of this. So one of the single biggest questions that I get asked and have been asked over the past year is, what do we do about our contractual state? We know that as we go into this, people have got EA anniversaries, you've got renewals coming up, and the question that we're getting asked a lot is, what do we do to facilitate this? So there are a couple of options that we are able to start delivering at the moment, and it's completely up to you as to whether you want to take them, right? There is no push or force. We're not going to hold anyone to anything. You can carry on as is. You can carry on with your 3-year cycles if they go up to vesting day and beyond, and you can, add products and true up and true down and everything like that you're used to within that construct. However, there are options we are providing for people who are looking to bridge because they might have an anniversary or renewal that comes up before they get to vesting day, and they need to look at something different, particularly for a renewal. So there are a few things here. Firstly, we will allow contract extensions up to vesting day. So you'll need to go and ask your reseller. I assume on this call it will be Ultima and Trustmarque, but you'll need to go and ask your reseller to come to Microsoft and ask for an extension of contract. We can facilitate that up to vesting day, so you don't need to do a renewal if you have one coming up and you don't want to go into a renewal state. We can offer a uplift to Microsoft E5 that will take you up until vesting day. Now, effectively, if I explain what I mean there, historically, what we've done is a 3-year ramp term for Microsoft E5. So there is an uplift in year 1, an uplift in year 2, an uplift in year 3, and then when you renew, you would go on to the full E5 price point. What we have done is we've taken across those 3 years what the discount would be that you would receive across each of those 3 years, and we've condensed them down from now until vesting day. So effectively, you are minimizing your cost profile upfront to move to E5 if you haven't done so. So you can fit it into budget cycles between now and vesting day, and then when you get to the new organization, you'll know what your baseline cost will be through E5 because it is set by the SPA agreement we have with government. So we've very purposefully done that to minimize the cost and the barrier to entry, to be able to start standardizing on those security technologies if you wish to start leveraging some of the data compliance capabilities if you wish to. So we are building out all of that. We also are building out a motion where you can have 180 days at 6 months of dual running of 2 Microsoft 365 environments. That allows you to continue maintaining your existing Microsoft 365 environment whilst novating users and data into a new Microsoft 365 environment. So we built out quite a lot here that we hope gives the types of flexibility that are needed in the marketplace. I've mentioned that we can start doing contract length extension. Process for that is really straightforward. Go and ask your reseller, and we will be then able to work through. We also will accept when you get past vesting day, if you're choosing to consolidate at that point onto a new contract for all of the new organizations that make up, North. I'll make a political faux pas if I name a council that hasn't actually been created. But if you're in Essex and one of those Essex regions, you say, right, for investing day, we want a new contract. Not only will we have the extension to take you up to that point for those who've got a renewal beforehand, if your contract is going beyond there, we can also accept requests for an early termination of that contract so you can go into a new state for the new organization. So we're looking to build a lot of flexibility into this to allow you to novate in the way that you may want to. That is not being forced. Again, I will stress this. If you want to continue coterminous running of multiple different agreements, that is your choice as well. We will accept that. There is no you must do in any of this. We will share all of these out afterwards so you can get some of this. But I'll go into a little bit more of the specifics in terms of what is contained within this. So, as I mentioned, we have an offer for E5. I'll share the estimated retail pricing for that in a second, because I'm sure everyone will want to see it. But there is a number of other things that are coming. So we are investing very heavily in the security posture within E5, and there is an awful lot that comes with taking the step into E5. So we've built in now security co-pilot. So that is a tool set that is all about how do we use that AI capability to signal to you that you have had an attack, that there is a threat, that there is something that we can see that is misconfigured, recommended next steps. We are making available deployment vouchers that can be used in your current environment to enable you to start using that technology more effectively. So this is effectively a cashable voucher you can give to a partner who have the right Microsoft 365 credentials, and you'll be able to start standing this capability up in your environment. We have got a set of ingestion capabilities that will take the signals from E5 and it will digest them for free into Sentinel. So again, you can start standing up those regional SOCs and minimizing the cost to being able to see what is going on across that environment. We've got Intune Suite coming into E5, so there is a whole range of additional management capabilities that you can land in your current environment, but also plan for in terms of the new estate. And then we have Defender for Expert XDR, which again plays into that whole life cycle management of what you do around security and potential breaches. So all of this is being brought into the capability for E5 and in terms of what we are releasing to market. In terms of pricing, now this is all estimated retail pricing, so you will need to go to your partner and actually ask them for a formal quote, and they will then be able to get you a formal pricing point for it. But effectively, we have got a window open for people to be able to take this offer out. It will run from now until effectively the May of vesting day, so you can then look to step into a new contract for the new organisation beyond that. The estimated retail price is £9.04 per user per month from now until vesting day. And then when you go into the new organisation, obviously that will then be £16.34, which is the standard price point for E5 as negotiated into the SPA. So this is out there, this is available for you to be able to making decisions around now in terms of budgeting and what you might want to do from a tech portfolio perspective. Again, it is available. It is not something we are forcing, but we do strongly recommend people start standardizing on E5, because in most regions, E5 is being used by several of the councils in that area. We also, as I called out, we have got a dual use, a dual running offer out there. We will make this 180 days. Now, we've had a lot of feedback, and I will address it up front. Is 180 days long enough? We need to get to a point individually where we understand what migration paths look like, what your timescales are, when is it you actually need to activate a new tenant, what is the dual running of that on your program and project, and then when is it you will look to be able to do the cutover into the new environment. There could be flex here, but we need to get to the point organisationally where we understand what your plan is to be able to align to what you're looking to do. So out of the box, we are offering 180 days, that's 6 months of dual running, where you can be standing up that new environment to run alongside your existing environments and be planning the migration and the cutover into that. We also have got offers out which will allow you to start thinking about what data you want us to migrate, or what is it that you want third parties to do. So we have Microsoft native tooling where we will take on and align an engineer who will then manage through the fast track process you moving from one tenancy to another, and that will help you migrate your email, that will help you migrate SharePoint, that will help you migrate some of the content within Teams. You can go out to third parties who could do that for you, or you could look at a blended environment where some of that is being done by our team, some of that is being done by your team or with a partner using the right tool sets. And again, we've got some costings which will allow you to budget for how much will it cost, so we can migrate. Again, this is all ERP. Again, if we find that this doesn't sit well within budgets, we can look at what this might need to look like. We're hearing feedback on this at the moment, but effectively we have got a per user cost where we will migrate all of those data sets for you, and that is £14 per user for that migration service. Or we can offer we have shared environment, shared data, effectively a cross-tenant migration for £45 for those shared environments. So there's a lot that we are trying to do here. There is a lot that we are listening to feedback on, that we are still taking back. We are still trying to work through, what the right scenarios and right answers are. So if there are things you've heard today and you've gone, Robin, Microsoft have missed this particular area, this is something we're really thinking about, we're worried about, please bring that back to us, because if there's things we're missing, we need to go and understand those so we can start addressing. there's feedback in terms of what we're offering as a particular service or a line item in there that you go, that's not right for what we need, again, please feed that back, because for us, we need to go on this journey together. And I'm incredibly committed to supporting all of you through this journey. So that is everything that I wanted to cover from a Microsoft perspective. I'll hand over to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Robin. I think it's great to get that useful insight, but also exciting to see some contracts options and concessions that our local authorities on the call can benefit from, and quite refreshing to see some actual costed out options and offers that they can take from day one. So look, thank you for that very much. Really, really insightful. Look, it doesn't end here. I mean, we're coming to the end of today's webinar, but by registering for today, you will now automatically get an invite for the next 3 events, 2 more webinars. So the July webinar is focused on identity, access and security. And you again heard Robin reinforcing the essential requirement to make sure that you're getting your cyber risks under control and preparing from that perspective. So the 7th of July is really about all of that. And then in August on the 11th, the webinar will be around convergence. So we've talked about stability, we've talked about, or will have talked about convergence, and then it all sort of finalizes in September with what we call our Fusion event, which is a well, I'll just step onto the next slide. Bit of a groundbreaking, industry-leading event. Think of a trade exhibition in London. And you'll all get an invite to this to come along face to face. We have over 60 leading technology companies exhibiting, doing breakout sessions, talks. We're looking at innovation, we're looking at AI, and we'll have somewhere between 300 and 400 customers of Trustmarque Ultimas from across both public and private sector. And we will have a specific breakout group for LGR looking at modernisation, so the transformation element post LGR. So it'd be great if you could join us at that. The link that you can see in the bottom right hand corner there is to register, but we've already got your email details, so we will also after this send you all a personal invite to join us at Fusion Live. For those of you that are interested in the continuous professional development, the event is accredited, so you get CPD points for towards your CPD hours for coming along to Fusion as well. So that brings an end to today's event.